All right, so here we have a Husqvarna 455 Rancher, and the motor is toast. The customer accidentally put in the wrong fuel, no oil in it, scored up the cylinder pretty bad. There's actually a piece stuck in there. Quick way to check this is to take off the muffler, look down in the exhaust port there at the cylinder, and pull it over a little bit. This one actually is stuck because there's a piece stuck in there. Looks like an old piston ring or something. And so now we're going to take it the rest of the way apart and see if we can fix it. Customer didn't want to spend the money to get it fixed properly, so he gave him 50 bucks for it. Now I'm gonna fix it with just a cheap Amazon cylinder kit and see how it goes. So first things first, I already took the muffler off, top cover, take off this air breather here. You see there's crud everywhere in this, and so good saw maintenance is just every now and then pop the cover off and blow it out. Any little bit helps. So next we'll take this side cover off. Okay, got the side cover off, just 4 simple bolts went in here. They used an Allen key head, but they had a little slot in them for a flathead as well. So we're going to take this plastic shield off too. So we'll just pop some of these wires out of here, get them out of the way. Just like that. They're just held into these little recessions in this piece of plastic. Plastic cover comes out, over there. Now you see all this sawdust gets stuck everywhere. Now this one actually not too bad, but a lot of times they get just packed full and then they run hot, overheat, and then you run into issues and you have the potential to start wearing out your motor. Okay, next we'll take off this clutch cover. Just use your chainsaw tool. Make sure the chain brake is disengaged. If you take off these covers with this style chain brake, you will have a heck of a time putting it back on. The only way I've found to be able to reset them without breaking things is to take the whole chain brake arm off, clamp this in a vise, put this little cog thing into here, and very carefully with lots of pressure snap the chain brake open without wrecking these plastic cogs. A lot of people will leave the chain brake on, pull the clutch cover off, and then the chain brake snaps tighter because there's no clutch to stop it. And then they'll go to put it back together, think, oh, that's weird, I'll just tighten up the bolts. Tighten up the bolts and they will just break things. Break the covers, break the clutch, you name it. Rip the bolts right out of the block. That's happened before. So, always disengage your chain brake before you take the clutch cover off. Okay, got that out of the way. Take this chain off here. Now Another good thing to do while you have a saw apart is just clean it up as much as you can. Whatever you see, blow it out. Get the air compressor going, blow it out. Okay, so now that the saw is less awkward to work with, no bar and chain in the way, we will undo this motor mount here. Start by taking out this Allen head, and we may have to, yeah, it looks like we're gonna have to disassemble all the motor mounts. So we'll take them all out. There's two here, there's one up here, one here. Flip the saw over again. Let's see. There should be another one, I just don't see it yet. Well, I'll start with those two and see how it goes. Okay, so taking out this bolt here holding this motor mount in, and the other one on the bottom. Now I've got to get this carburetor assembly out of the way. So these throttle linkages here are not allowing me to separate the chainsaw housings. So I've got two Allen head screws here, and a lot of times there'll be another one straight down in here holding it. It doesn't look like it on this one. This one instead has right down in here a little black rubber piece, and one over here as well. Get a screwdriver and poke it for you. Right there, this little rubber thing. Now, once I get it off, I'll give you a better look at it. So I'll start by taking out these two Allen heads, as well as disconnecting these linkages here as I try to pull it out. Another quick thing, all this dust here, I'm gonna go over to my other bench, get the air line, and clean all that off. Now, even though this is a damaged engine, I'm gonna be replacing the cylinder, piston, all that good stuff. I'm still gonna try to keep it as clean of a process as possible. That way the next engine doesn't have any contaminants already inside of it. So each step of the way, I'm gonna be blowing all this crud off as much as I can. Okay, I've just blown off all this sawdust, clean that up real nice. I didn't use any sort of a cleaner, literally just an air compressor and a blowgun. Did in here while I was at it too. See all that stuff? The majority of it is gone, at least all the loose stuff that would cause me problems. Over here as well, still some more there. I'll clean it up a little better upon reassembly, but for the most part, fairly clean working area. So now we'll go ahead, take this carburetor assembly off, and check back with you then. Okay, change of plans. Not taking out those two screws up there. Instead, we're going to take the handle apart first. See if we can get at the linkages that way. So, Allen head screw here, there, and one down here. And that'll expose all these linkages inside the handle. Okay, so now we can see how the throttle assembly works. You have the safety there, and then the throttle. And it's all spring-loaded and held together just like that. So, that all just popped apart on me. We'll reassemble that later. Now, this is the throttle linkage. That lever pushes on here, operates the throttle on the side of the carburetor up here. So, we're going to take a screwdriver and pop this blue linkage apart. Just like that. That's just like a little spring clip thing. Holds that rod down there in. So as you can see, it's not in a hole, it's just in a notch. So, see if I can get at this with my fingers. Just pop that up. Get this little dust shield out of the way. And then the whole assembly will just pull out just like that. Put that with the handle stuff. Put these screws with it. Kind of tidy up a little bit. And now we can get better access to these lower screws, they are actually what holds the carburetor assembly on. These upper ones I was referring to later, they go into this intake manifold type assembly, and they just hold these rubber lines up. You can actually just pull them right off. Don't need to unscrew these at all, at least not yet. We may have to take it off to get this plastic cover off, give us enough room, but we'll assess that when we get there. All right, so I've got the screw out on this side. It's quite difficult to film while taking it out because it rubs on here, rubs on here, and you just kind of have to force it out. This one, it's nice and loose. Should be able to just grab it with the pliers, pull it right out, just like that. Could probably even pull it out with a magnet. And now we will see if we can undo these rubber isolator hanger things over here. So, see if we can pry it one way or the other. So we'll pry it up like that. Get another screwdriver and pry the rubber off like that. Once this is all out of the way, I'll give you a better look at that. And there's another one on this side right here. So I'll get that off and I'll get back to you. Okay, got this other rubber isolator off of this cog there. Now, kill switch, choke, that whole assembly is going to come out as one. But you'll see the wires for the kill switch feed through there and over to the magneto coil. So we will simply pull these out, get them out of the way. Pliers, that pulls out. This one maybe a flathead screwdriver and pull it out. Oh, my bad. Gotta pull that one off like that. So instead of the whole assembly coming out of this one, just the clip, this one, the clip is the assembly. So this one all the way out. This one, just undo the wire connector. And then we will see if we need to do anything else. See that black rubber piece there? It'll just come off. We'll have to disconnect these fuel lines from the primer bulb. Just take a mental note of which one goes to where. That way you remember how to put it back together. Okay. These rubber hoses there, part of the intake assembly, they will just slide off like that. Try to be a little bit gentle. Don't want to stab your screwdriver through the side of them. You could just wiggle it and they will pull off, but get them started. That way they wiggle out nice and easy, just like that. Now you can just take this carburetor assembly out. Oh, I missed the fuel line on this side. I only undid the primer bulb ones. So just screwdriver or pliers if you can get them in there. By the way, I already drained the fuel out of this. It was no good anyway, straight fuel. So I just got it out of there so that we know we have fresh fuel when we put it back together. So it's carburetor assembly. Air filter goes up top. This latch latches it on. Clearish line goes to the primer. That barb there gets the black line straight from the fuel tank. That clearish line that runs under there and up to there. Guess I didn't really have to undo it. It goes to the primer as well. Put that on there before we forget where it goes. This other little vacuum line, make sure you leave it hooked up. Or I shouldn't say that, we'll probably have to take it off. But make sure you know where it goes. And as you're doing this, just check all these gaskets. A lot of them are rubber. but just make sure they're reusable. And you see I do have some sawdust in there, so even though I blew a lot of it off, still some gets in, so we'll just make sure it's nice and clean before we fire it up. Okay, third motor mount that we need to undo that we haven't done before is this screw hiding right here. Couldn't quite see it, but down in here you'll see there's another spring mount right there. So we'll undo this Allen head and things should start to fall apart. So I've got these Allen keys ground way down for some tight jobs, and so when I need length and leverage, I clamp my small vice grips on there. Just a little tip. It gives you kind of like almost a screwdriver handle to spin around as well. Makes things a little easier. So take this apart. See, that's a fairly coarse thread. Let's put that over here with the other ones. It's for threading into plastic and such. And so now, two halves of the chainsaw want to come apart. So we will get this wiggled out. Just want to make sure everything else is clearing. Just wiggle that. Give it a shake. There you go. Got the whole handle assembly out. Put that in the pile of parts. And there we go. So, a lot of saws, you won't have to take apart this bad because these holes up top, you stick your Allen key through there, your torque screwdriver, unscrew the bolts, cylinder comes off the top. In this case, this one is held on from the bottom. The bolts go up through. So we'll clean out down here and take the top off and see how it looks. Okay, bolts are exposed, broke them all free. Now we'll just take them all out. Okay, got all 4 bolts taken out. Now we'll flip the saw upright and see if we can separate it. So really, there should be nothing holding the cylinder on. All of this intake assembly here should just slide right up, still attached to the cylinder, and we can reattach to the new cylinder before we put it all in. So we'll just give this a little pry here and see what happens. See, we got it to move. That'll wiggle. Just like that. Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I'll get a light and show you guys closer. Okay, so see if you guys can see that in there. It looks terrible. However, it really doesn't feel all that bad. I mean, I've seen saws with a lot deeper scoring that still run half okay. Now if you look over here, you'll see down there all those pieces. That is what was jammed between the top of the piston and the top of the cylinder. So that is why it would not turn over anymore. So now I just want to make sure I can find where those pieces came from and get them all out and make sure that we're not going to cause that bottom end any more damage. I mean, it looks pretty okay. So the old piston, took it off, no problem. I'm going to replace this needle bearing because the new kit came with a new one. This one really doesn't look all that bad. There's no real play in it. So I'm going to look at the new one If this is better quality, I'll just put this one back in. Here's our new kit. Came with a cylinder, pistons in there, piston pin clip things. Came with a couple new fuel lines, new primer bulb, decompression button, or a plug to block it off. I'm going to use the plug and block it off because I personally do not like these decompression valves. Let's just say they do not seal all the way, and sometimes debris will get through your motor, or you'll lose compression. Not always, sometimes. Personally, if you can't pull a chainsaw over, you shouldn't be running a chainsaw over. So I'm just gonna stick the plug in. What else it comes with? Came with brand new air filter, some more fuel line, piston pin, piston rings, and a fuel filter, and a spark plug. So we'll get this all ready to be reassembled. First things first, gonna clean that up. The intake assembly bolted onto the new block. I thought they'd have reusable rubber gaskets in there, but it's just silicone. It's like a RTV gasket material. Pretty sure anyway. I will clean these up, see if for whatever reason they are rubber gaskets and just coated in silicone. Otherwise I'll just put RTV back on there, and we'll seal it up and see how it goes. All right, got the new piston on there, new piston ring. Have the silicone on there, just letting it set up for a couple minutes. Didn't put too much on, just filled the groove and have a little bit sticking out. The intake is on there, so I'm just going to lube the cylinder walls a little bit, lube the piston and ring, slide it all together. Got the new cylinder on, got the 4 bolts in the bottom started, snugged them up. Gonna let that silicone dry for about an hour, and then I'll retighten the bolts. Got everything cleaned up. Gonna start reinstalling as much as I can without putting the whole handle assembly back on. I need to leave the handle assembly off to get at those 4 bolts for their final tighten in about an hour. After that, I'll let it all sit, cure up for, it says 24 hours, so we'll just come back to it tomorrow, fill it up with fluid, see if it'll run tomorrow. I'll let you know when I got things back together. Well, the saw is mostly back together. Have all the side shrouding on, carbs on, air filter, fuel lines are all hooked up. Can get at these 2 bolts easier with the handle still off. The cylinder has been retorqued. Now I'm gonna fully assemble it. It's tomorrow now. We've got some fresh fuel in there at about a 40-to-1 mix. Generally run 50-to-1, but I'm gonna run a little bit extra oil this time, at least until the saw is broken in. We've got a nice new chain installed on here. Nice new Oregon chain. So we'll see if this will fire up, see how it runs, and see how this cheap Amazon cylinder kit performs. Okay, kill switch on, choke on, pump some gas through it because it was empty. Well, I'm actually impressed it started so quickly, and it seems to be running pretty smooth. So in our next video, maybe we'll go outside, cut some wood or something. See how it lasts over time. See you then.